Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I am recording this session and we'll post a link to the webinar on our YouTube channel, and I'll make sure to send out a link to everyone in our email distribution list so that you'll be able to watch it later or share it with others if you like. So what we're going to go over today is how to track your forms and molds in Idencia, the inspections that you do on those molds and forms, and how to link your products that are poured in those molds and forms back to the mold in which it was poured. That way, if you have recurring nonconformance or repair issues, you'll be able to quickly and easily tell if there's a problem with a particular form that needs addressing, and then also be able to tell how many products you're pouring out of each form every day if you want that information as well. So I'm just going to flip over to my Idencia system. So you'll notice here on the left, there are some examples of some tag types that you can use to tag each form. So the first step in the process is to get a tag on each form, or at least have them numbered. They don't have to be tagged with a barcode or an RFID tag. That is the easiest method for your end users, but they could just be numbered. If you wanted to do it that way and just put a big sticker on them or number them with a grease pencil or some spray paint and just number your forms, that would work also. These are some examples of some mold tags that you could use. Here's an example of somebody scanning a QR code. This is actually a shipping container, but it would look the same or work the same on your metal molds. You can use a QR code like this. A barcode. You could just hang a tag. If you purchase concrete tags from Idencia, they probably look something like this. If you want to just grab one of those tags that's not already been assigned to a product and hang it somewhere on the form, that could be used. You could also just put a barcode on the form in the form of a sticker. As long as the barcode is a unique number, that should work fine. If you're interested in getting some of these tags, we'd be happy to help you source those. We have a couple of different suppliers that we use and that we can recommend. This is an RFID tag that's specially made to be put onto metal. If you're going to use RFID tag on a form, you'll want to use something, depending on where you tap it, you'll want to use something that is specifically designed to be mounted on a metal. Because of the way the RFID signal bounces off of that metal. So you'll want to have one that's specially made for a metal form. So when we're finished up, if you're interested in getting some tags to get started with your molds and would like some information on where to source those tags, feel free to reach out. We'd be glad to help you there. So the very first step in the process in tracking your molds will be tagging each of your molds. So that'll be one of the first things you want to do, get them all tagged or numbered. Once you're finished with that, then you're going to want to set up a process to capture the details about each individual mold. And we're going to look at a process that I have set up already. That's an example. We've called it mold form or form setup. And this process would be run on your handheld device when you get a new mold or when you're putting a mold in your Idencia system for the first time. So this process basically captures the basic information about that mold. You can capture the same information. You can capture different information. You don't actually have to capture any of this information about your mold. It could just be a serial number if you don't want to track the mold type or the footprint. A lot of times you may want to use the mold footprint if you have or are looking into a scheduling system that looks at how much floor space in your plant a particular mold uses, so you can use get the most efficiency out of your floor space, and then capture some other information about the mold that might help you determine and help the system know what types of products can be poured within that mold, the maximum width and depth and height of products that can be poured in that mold. And this is kind of just an example of some of the data that you might capture about a mold when you first enter it into the system. The next thing, you'll create this process details or set up this process to capture data about the mold when you're first entering a mold into the system. And you'll notice that this particular process is not available to existing items. You're going to run it when the mold does not exist in the system yet, and this is the first process that you'll run against that mold. And you only run it one time. It just captures the initial information about that mold just to get that mold set up in the Idencia application. Next, you'll need to set up a mold inspection process if you want to capture that information in Idencia. And we'll look at an example. Here we're using this mold form inspection. Sorry, I've got my Zoom controls in the way there. We'll look at this mold form inspection. So here's some typical information you might capture when you're inspecting a mold or a form. What type of joints does it use? Are they all in good condition? How many latches? Is everything in working order? And you have pass-fail values and capture who inspected it and their signature. And this you'll run multiple times. So if you notice, this process is available to existing items because you're going to run this process against all of your existing molds, usually on a regular schedule. You have regularly scheduled inspections of each of your molds and forms. Again, this inspection process on your molds is not required in order to link products to the mold in which they were poured, but it's good to keep that data available all in one place, and it's possible to do in Idencia. So the next thing we'll want to do to get you set up for capturing your mold information in Idencia is to create an item type for your molds. So just like each of your products links back to an item type, the item links to an item type. Since your molds will be items, they need to have an item type, and we've just created here a generic mold item type. And there's no specific information on the mold item type because all of the specifics are going to be kept up on the mold item when you run the setup process or the inspection process. So this just links those items to the mold item type. So when you search for them in your items list, you can find all your molds quickly and easily. They'll be grouped under the mold item type. And I have set the default process for this item type to be the mold setup. So the very first time you scan a tag and associate it with this mold item type, the mold setup form will get run. And then subsequently, when you scan those tags, you'll run the mold inspection process. So basically, those are the 3 steps for getting the molds and information about the molds set up in Idencia. You'll want a mold item type, a process to capture the setup data about that mold and get that mold set up in your Idencia system and capture the details about that mold, and a process for capturing your mold inspections. Those 3 things are all about the mold. The next thing you're going to want to do is in one of your QC processes, you want to capture the mold ID associated with each product. So if you're already scanning your products and recording your pre-pour inspection and post-pour inspections in Idencia on the mobile app, in one of those processes, you want to add a step that will capture the mold ID. So we're going to look at an example where we've set it up on our pre-pour inspection. So if we look at that process, you can see here the second step in the process will capture the form ID. And the step type that we used was the scan tag step type. And we'll be happy to help you get all of this set up one-on-one. If you need some assistance, we'll be happy to do that. But this is a scan tag step type so that the user has the option when they get to this step in the pre-pour process of scanning the tag. It will open the, if it's a barcode or a QR code, you can open the camera on the device if you're using that. If it's an RFID tag on the mold, you'll hit the scan tag button like you normally do and just scan the tag that's on the side of the mold, and that will associate, in the process, will associate the mold ID with the product as part of, in this case, as part of the pre-pour inspection is when that's information is being captured. That's basically it. So every time you scan a tag and put a tag into a product, a step in your pre-pour process or one of your QC processes will associate the product with the mold in which it was poured. I can also we can also then build reports around that information. So here, I've got an example of a very rudimentary, just quick and easy defects by mold report, where in this case, I've set it up with a date range. We'll just look at everything so far this year. And you can see here for this mold type, mold ID, and the numbering system that I used was, this was mold 1, and the serial number. Here's the serial number of the product that was poured in that mold, its pour date, and then a column for the defect type. If there's additional information you want to know about that defect, we can customize this report to include whatever information you would like to see. If you want to know, in addition to what was the defect type, you want to know what was the concrete mix that was used, what was, excuse me, the concrete strength, the stripping strength, whatever other information that is captured in Idencia that you would like to see on this report, we can put in there. You can also add dashboard tiles. In this example here, in my demo site, I've got a tile here for nonconformance details. And in this example, if I click on this, you can see we have several nonconformance issues that have cropped up. If I click on the one that says it's the incorrect thickness, down here it shows me what the serial number was that had that nonconformance, and I know that it was incorrect thickness. We can also include here the mold ID. In this tile here, we can include the mold ID in which that product was poured. So if you're looking at, say this was not just one incorrect thickness conformance issue, but maybe it was 6 of them, you'd be able to get the list of all 6 of those products that had the issue and see if they all came out of the same mold. We could also create brand new tiles if you have other information you'd like to see graphically, and other ways of slicing and dicing that information and tracking those molds. And if you're having issues with those molds, we can also put tiles about that data here, as well as information like when was the last time each mold was inspected? What is your time frame? How often do you inspect your molds? Which molds are due for inspection? Are there any that did not pass inspection and why? If you perform maintenance on your molds, you can create additional processes if you like, that capture what type of maintenance was done. So you can track all of that as well. It basically turns the mold into an item just like your products. So here I can search for mold. These are all of the molds that I have in my database right now. These are the serial numbers. So each tag on the outside of the mold, you would see a tag that had this serial number on it. And then I can look at those individual tags. I can see this is all the information that was captured when I ran that setup process. And then I can see where that mold or form was inspected on a particular date, that mold or form inspection. So tagging that mold and giving it a serial number basically turns that mold into a new item in your database, and adding that form ID step in the pre-pour process, where when they're pouring just before they pour the product, when they're doing the pre-pour inspection, they scan the tag on the outside of the mold. That is linking those 2 serial numbers together, the serial number of the product that you're pouring and the serial number of the mold in which the product is being poured. All right, I think that's it. I do want to let you know that we will be posting the link to this webinar on our YouTube channel. So I'll be sure to send out an email that has a link to that. You're also welcome to just go to YouTube and type Idencia in the search bar, and you'll see a list of YouTube videos we've put out in the past. Some of them are previous webinars. Some of them are instructional videos on how-tos, on how to use the system. A lot of those videos are embedded in our knowledge articles. that are available through your support button in Idencia. If you would like some help, and it's in tracking your molds and forms is something that you want to do, and you need a little bit of guidance to get and help getting it all set up, we'd be more than happy to schedule some time with you. In your Idencia management portal, if you click on the support button and then hit contact us, you can leave a message or call. If there's an agent available for chat, you'll have an additional button where you can chat with an agent if we have an agent online who's available. But if you click leave a message and then just request a Q&A or configuration guidance meeting, and we'd be happy to meet with you and walk you through setting that up step by step on how to do it and help you through some testing to make sure it's all working.